Relationships are the bedrock of human life. Whether they are with friends, family, or a partner, they shape who we are and how we experience the world. Yet, maintaining meaningful and fulfilling relationships is no easy task. Misunderstandings, emotional reactions, and unmet expectations often lead to strain and discord. What if I told you that the wisdom of Stoicism, a philosophy rooted in reason, virtue, and self-mastery, holds the key to transforming your relationships? Stoic teachings guide us to connect with others authentically, to strengthen bonds with integrity, and to navigate conflicts with patience and clarity. They remind us that the way we treat others is a reflection of our inner state and our commitment to virtue. In this video, we will explore timeless Stoic principles that can elevate your relationships, making them more harmonious, resilient, and deeply meaningful. Together, let us delve into these lessons and uncover how the Stoic path can lead to profound improvements in how we relate to the people who matter most in our lives. Lesson 1. Embrace empathy, not judgment. In the tapestry of human relationships, empathy is the thread that binds us to one another, creating the bonds of understanding and trust that we so deeply crave. It is easy to slip into judgment. Our minds are quick to evaluate, categorize, and criticize, but Stoicism calls us to a higher standard. The Stoic approach challenges us to step away from the reactive impulses of judgment and instead embrace empathy, seeing others not as objects of our disdain or frustration, but as fellow travelers on the path of life. Epictetus, in his discourses, teaches us that it's not things that upset us, but our judgment about things. This core Stoic idea is revolutionary in its simplicity, yet it has the power to reshape how we view others. If we are constantly quick to judge others' actions or words, we are often unaware of the deeper layers of their motivations, struggles, and experiences. When we judge, we separate ourselves from others, erecting barriers that make true connection difficult, if not impossible. To live as a Stoic is to let go of hasty judgments, to approach each person with the assumption that we cannot fully understand the complexity of their inner world. Instead of seeing others' actions as affronts or personal slights, we must challenge ourselves to pause, reflect, and respond with empathy. It is only through understanding the intentions behind others' actions that we can act justly in our relationships. Consider the words of Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic emperors. Whenever someone has done wrong, immediately consider what notion of good or evil they had in doing it. This is a call to look beyond the surface, to delve into the realm of the person's mind and heart. When someone behaves in a way that frustrates or angers you, ask yourself, what was their reasoning? What were they trying to accomplish, even if their method was flawed? Recognize that everyone, including yourself, acts according to their own perception of the world and their place in it. By applying this mindset, we see that often wrongdoings are a result of misunderstanding, fear, or external pressures, not malicious intent. Take, for instance, a situation in which a loved one speaks sharply to you. Instead of rushing to interpret their words as an attack, pause and consider what might be going on beneath the surface. Perhaps they had a bad day at work, or their patience was tested by stress or fatigue. The Stoic mind will recognize that this moment is not about you personally, but about the circumstances that have shaped the other person's emotional state. Empathy requires us to acknowledge that each person we interact with is the product of a lifetime of experiences, both visible and invisible. By approaching relationships from this perspective, we liberate ourselves from the cycle of judgment that often poisons our interactions. Instead of focusing on the negative aspects of a person's behavior, we begin to search for their humanity, their struggles, and their vulnerabilities. This approach doesn't condone bad actions, but it allows us to respond with patience, understanding, and a desire to find common ground. How can we cultivate this mindset in our daily lives? The first step is to develop the habit of perspective taking. In moments of tension or frustration, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what might this person be experiencing? What pressures might they be under? How can I view this situation from their point of view? This is not an excuse for poor behavior, but rather a strategy to dissolve resentment and create room for a more compassionate, thoughtful response. Empathy also requires vulnerability. By allowing ourselves to understand others more deeply, we open ourselves to the possibility of being misunderstood or hurt. Yet this vulnerability is the key to authentic connection. When we respond with understanding, we break down the walls that often divide us, creating space for honesty, openness, and, ultimately, stronger relationships. In Stoicism, we are taught to focus on what is within our control. And one of the most powerful things within our control is our response to others. We can choose to meet judgment with empathy, frustration with understanding, and anger with compassion. By doing so, we align ourselves with the Stoic ideal of living in accordance with nature, seeing ourselves as part of a larger human community, interconnected and interdependent. Embracing empathy over judgment is a practice, one that requires consistent effort and self-awareness. But the rewards are profound. When we choose to meet others with empathy, we open the door to more peaceful, fulfilling relationships. Empathy fosters trust, disarms conflict, and creates an environment where growth and understanding can thrive. It reminds us that we are not isolated beings, but rather part of a shared human experience, bound together by our joys, struggles, and imperfections. By cultivating this mindset, we not only improve our relationships, but also grow as individuals, learning to navigate the complexities of human nature with grace and wisdom. In the end, it is through understanding others rather than judging them that we unlock the true potential of our connections. Lesson 2. The Art of Active Listening. Active listening is one of the most powerful tools you can wield in any relationship. It is the bridge between misunderstanding and understanding, between conflict and resolution. In the fast-paced world we live in, where distractions are endless and emotions can quickly cloud our judgment, active listening is a skill that requires both discipline and intention. It is not simply hearing words, but fully engaging with them, with the person speaking, and with the underlying emotions and intentions that may not be immediately visible. In Stoic thought, the emphasis is always on presence, the ability to be fully in the moment, without distraction, and to meet the world and others where they are. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations reminds us you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When we apply this principle to communication, we understand that the quality of our interactions depends on our ability to focus our attention on the present moment, to truly hear what the other person is saying, and to respond thoughtfully, rather than reacting out of impulse or habit. Active listening, then, is more than just a tool for understanding others, it is a practice of self-control. The Stoic understands that to listen well is to relinquish our need to control the conversation, or to insert our own opinions before the other person has been fully heard. This requires patience and a willingness to let go of the desire to speak immediately. When we listen actively, we create space for the other person's thoughts and emotions, showing them that they are worthy of our full attention. One of the dangers in relationships is the tendency to listen with the intention of replying rather than understanding. This kind of listening, often called reactive listening, is driven by our need to assert our own viewpoint, to defend ourselves, or to fix the problem at hand. While it may seem productive, reactive listening often leaves the other person feeling unheard and misunderstood. The true art of listening, however, lies in the ability to absorb what the other person is saying without judgment, without jumping in too quickly, and without filtering their words through the lens of our own biases. Epictetus wisely said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This is not merely a piece of advice, it is a Stoic principle that calls us to reflect on the power of silence and attentiveness. The practice of active listening requires us to silence our inner dialogue, to clear our mind of distractions, and to truly absorb what is being communicated, both verbally and non-verbally. To cultivate this art, begin by focusing on the speaker rather than thinking about your response. Make eye contact, nod to show understanding, and refrain from interrupting. Notice not only the words but also the voice, the body language, and the emotions that are being expressed. These subtle cues are often more revealing than the words themselves, and they give you a deeper understanding of the speaker's needs, desires, and concerns. When we practice active listening, we also practice humility. We acknowledge that the other person's perspective is just as valid as our own, even if it differs from ours. We approach the conversation with an open mind and an open heart, ready to learn from the other person rather than simply waiting for our turn to speak. This humility fosters trust and respect, and it helps to create an environment where both parties feel valued and heard. Moreover, active listening strengthens relationships because it creates space for more meaningful dialogue. When people feel listened to, they are more likely to open up, to share their true feelings, and to engage in deeper conversations. This fosters a sense of intimacy and connection that is essential for any strong relationship. It also enables us to resolve conflicts more effectively, as we are able to understand the root causes of disagreements rather than merely reacting to the surface-level issues. There is also the Stoic element of mindfulness in active listening. When we listen with full attention, we are practicing mindfulness, which means being fully present in the moment. The Stoics believe that one of the keys to a peaceful life is to be present, to focus on the task at hand without getting lost in distractions or anxieties about the past or future. By practicing active listening, we not only improve our relationships, but we also cultivate inner calm and clarity, as we are no longer pulled away by the noise of our own thoughts. Active listening also aligns with the Stoic idea of virtue, specifically the virtue of justice. Justice, in Stoic terms, is the fair treatment of others, recognizing their worth and honoring their dignity. When we listen actively, we show respect for the other person's thoughts and feelings, recognizing that they are valuable and worthy of our attention. This is not simply a practice of good manners, it is a commitment to treating others with fairness and understanding, which is at the heart of what it means to live nobly in the world. Finally, we must remember that active listening is not passive. It is an engaged and deliberate act. It means asking thoughtful questions, reflecting back what we have heard, and offering a response that shows we have truly understood. It is through this active participation that we create an environment of mutual respect and growth, where both people can express themselves freely and without fear of judgment. In conclusion, the Stoic practice of active listening is a vital skill for building strong, healthy relationships. It requires presence, humility, patience, and an open heart. When we listen actively, we not only improve our communication, but we also honor the dignity and worth of the other person. Active listening is not a technique to be used only in times of conflict, but a way of living in connection with others, fully present, fully engaged, and fully compassionate. Lesson 3. Mastering your emotional reactions. One of the most profound teachings of Stoicism is the idea that we are not defined by our circumstances, but by how we choose to respond to them. In relationships, this concept becomes crucial. How we react emotionally to the actions and words of others often determines the strength and health of our connections. Stoicism teaches us that emotions themselves are not inherently destructive, but our unchecked reactions to them can lead to turmoil and discord. The Stoic approach to emotions is not about suppressing or ignoring them, but rather about mastering them, learning to understand their origins and choosing the most virtuous response. Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This wisdom reminds us that our emotional responses are not automatic, they are shaped by our judgments and perceptions. Therefore, if we can change the way we interpret events, we can change the way we feel and react to them. In the realm of relationships, our emotional reactions often arise from misunderstandings, unmet needs, or external pressures. When we feel disrespected, hurt, or frustrated by another person, our immediate impulse might be to lash out, defend ourselves, or withdraw. However, reacting impulsively can escalate conflict, deepen misunderstandings, and ultimately harm the relationship. The Stoic path, however, calls us to pause and consider what is the most measured and virtuous response in this moment. Take, for example, a disagreement with a close friend or partner. The first instinct might be to argue, to defend your point of view with fervor, or to allow your frustration to dictate your words and actions. Yet, if we pause, take a deep breath and reflect on the situation with a clear mind, we often realize that our emotions, while valid, do not need to control our actions. Marcus Aurelius offers a powerful reminder: when you are distressed by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. This teaches us that our emotional reactions are not the product of the situation itself, but of how we perceive and judge the situation. By mastering our emotional reactions, we step into a position of power. We no longer let anger, hurt, or frustration dictate our behavior. Instead, we choose how we respond. This is not an attempt to suppress our feelings, but to recognize that we can allow ourselves to feel without letting those feelings govern our actions. A key Stoic practice is what is known as the gap, the moment between stimulus and response. In this gap, we have the opportunity to choose a response that aligns with virtue rather than one driven by impulse. Consider the situation in which a loved one speaks harshly to you. Your first instinct might be to feel anger or to react defensively. But if you can pause for a moment, recognize the anger as a natural feeling, and reflect on the context of the situation, you might choose a different response. Instead of retaliating with harsh words, you might respond calmly and with understanding, choosing to address the issue at hand without escalating the emotional charge. This practice of emotional mastery allows you to remain steady and composed, even when faced with difficult situations. Emotions, while powerful, do not define us. The Stoic recognizes that emotions are fleeting and transient. They come and go, but our response to them is within our control. By mastering our emotional reactions, we align ourselves with reason, choosing to act in ways that reflect our highest virtues, such as wisdom, courage, and justice. This mastery also strengthens our relationships as we become less reactive and more thoughtful in our interactions with others. One of the Stoic exercises for emotional mastery is to practice negative visualization. This technique involves imagining worst-case scenarios not as a form of pessimism, but as a way to prepare oneself emotionally for potential challenges. In relationships, this exercise can help us approach difficult conversations or potential conflicts with a sense of equanimity. By visualizing possible emotional triggers, we can build the mental fortitude to remain calm and composed in the face of adversity. Another powerful Stoic practice is journaling. By reflecting daily on our emotional responses and examining the judgments that led to them, we can gain clarity and insight into our patterns of behavior. Journaling allows us to observe ourselves objectively, identifying where we allowed emotions to control us and where we might have acted in a more measured, virtuous way. Mastering emotional reactions is not about eliminating emotions altogether. It is about choosing how we engage with them. The Stoic way invites us to feel deeply, but to respond wisely. When we do so, we enhance our ability to navigate the complexities of relationships, responding with maturity and resilience, rather than being swept away by emotional turbulence. When we choose to act from a place of reason, we move away from impulsive reactions and toward deliberate actions that promote harmony and understanding. In relationships, this can create a foundation of stability and trust, where both parties feel safe to express themselves honestly and openly. Moreover, when we master our emotional reactions, we not only improve our relationships, but also cultivate inner peace and resilience. We no longer allow external events or others' behavior to control our emotional state. Instead, we take responsibility for our feelings and choose to respond in ways that are aligned with our values. In conclusion, the Stoic practice of mastering emotional reactions is a crucial element in building and sustaining healthy relationships. It allows us to navigate conflict with grace, to communicate with clarity, and to act with integrity, even in moments of emotional intensity. By embracing this practice, we gain not only better relationships but also a deeper sense of self-control, wisdom, and inner tranquility. Lesson 4. Practicing gratitude in relationships. Gratitude is often considered a simple virtue, something that we express in passing or during moments of celebration. However, for the Stoics, gratitude is a foundational principle, deeply intertwined with the practice of living in accordance with nature. In relationships, gratitude is not merely an expression of thanks for gifts received, but an attitude toward the entire experience of connecting with others. It is the recognition that every person we encounter can teach us something, every moment of interaction is an opportunity for growth, and every challenge in our relationships holds the potential to deepen our understanding of ourselves and others. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations reflects on gratitude as a key aspect of a virtuous life. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, "The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, and selfish. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil." This passage highlights the Stoic approach to gratitude, not in the sense of expecting perfection or ideal behavior from others, but in accepting and appreciating them for who they are, flaws and all. When we practice gratitude in our relationships, we recognize that each person with their strengths and weaknesses contributes to our growth and understanding. Gratitude in relationships, therefore, is not about idealizing others or ignoring their faults, but about acknowledging their presence in our lives and appreciating the opportunities they provide for us to practice virtue. For example, a partner's challenging behavior may test our patience, but it is in these moments that we have the opportunity to cultivate patience, understanding, and forgiveness. A friend's failure to live up to our expectations may teach us the importance of letting go of control and embracing the unpredictability of life. Every interaction offers us the opportunity to embody the Stoic virtues of wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things, but not with regard to your character." In the context of relationships, this reminds us that gratitude allows us to appreciate the character-building moments others provide us. The Stoic approach teaches us that no one is perfect, yet every person offers us the chance to develop virtues that would remain dormant in their absence. By practicing gratitude, we elevate the ordinary moments in our relationships, seeing them as opportunities to learn and grow. In the day-to-day complexities of relationships, it can be easy to focus on the challenges or frustrations we face with others, to dwell on the unmet expectations or the misunderstandings that arise. Yet, Stoicism teaches us to cultivate a broader perspective, one that takes into account the value of every experience. When we shift our focus from what others may lack to what they offer us, we find ourselves more connected to them, less resentful, and more at peace. The Stoic practice of gratitude invites us to step outside the role of the passive recipient and become active participants in the appreciation of life and its many gifts. One of the most transformative practices in cultivating gratitude is the act of daily reflection. Each day, take a moment to reflect on the people in your life and consider the ways in which they have contributed to your personal growth. This practice requires intentionality. It calls us to look beyond the surface level of our interactions and to find deeper meaning in the presence of others. For example, consider how a friend's advice, even if it was difficult to hear, helped you see things from a new perspective. Or think of how a partner's support during a challenging time deepened your sense of trust and emotional connection. By reflecting on these moments, we train ourselves to see the value in every relationship, no matter how small or fleeting the interaction may seem. Gratitude also helps us navigate conflict. In moments of tension or disagreement, we can ask ourselves, what can I be grateful for in this situation? Perhaps it is the opportunity to practice self-control or to learn how to communicate more effectively. Maybe it is the chance to practice forgiveness or to recognize the impermanence of the situation. Gratitude allows us to view even difficult moments through a lens of growth, transforming what could be sources of frustration into opportunities for virtue. Moreover, when we express gratitude to others, we strengthen the bonds of our relationships. Gratitude is contagious. When we express appreciation for the people in our lives, they are more likely to feel valued and reciprocate. A simple thank you for someone's presence, effort, or kindness can create a ripple effect, fostering an environment of mutual respect and care. This doesn't mean we must always be effusive in our expressions of thanks, but rather that we develop at least a deep inner appreciation for the ways in which others enrich our lives. In relationships, the practice of gratitude also helps us let go of the expectation that others must behave a certain way to deserve our appreciation. The Stoic mind recognizes that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control how we respond. Gratitude frees us from the trap of conditional love and appreciation, where we only express gratitude when others meet our expectations, and helps us cultivate a more unconditional, expansive sense of appreciation. This shift in perspective strengthens our relationships, making them more resilient and authentic. In conclusion, the Stoic practice of gratitude in relationships goes beyond mere politeness or the occasional expression of thanks. It is a way of seeing the value in every person we encounter, understanding that each interaction, whether positive or negative, is an opportunity for growth. By practicing gratitude, we begin to view our relationships not as burdens or sources of frustration, but as gifts that shape and define us. This practice transforms our connections, making them more meaningful, more enduring, and more deeply rooted in the Stoic virtues. Lesson 5. The importance of boundaries in relationships. In the realm of relationships, whether with family, friends, partners, or colleagues, there is one critical principle that the Stoics practice: self-respect. And self-respect requires us to establish clear boundaries. These boundaries, while they might seem like a modern concept, are deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy, which teaches us to prioritize our own mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Without boundaries, we risk losing our sense of self, allowing others' behaviors, demands, or expectations to dictate our actions and emotions. In this lesson, we will explore the Stoic approach to boundaries and how setting them can protect both our peace of mind and the integrity of our relationships. Boundaries are not walls, they are safeguards. They are not meant to isolate us from others, but to ensure that we remain true to our values and maintain our capacity for emotional and mental sanity. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Our thoughts, our emotional states, and our peace of mind are often influenced by the people around us. Without clear boundaries, those around us can inadvertently or intentionally cause disturbances in our mental-emotional equilibrium. The Stoic, therefore, understands that boundaries are a way of protecting the mind from undue stress or harm, ensuring that external influences do not overpower our inner tranquility. The Stoic approach to boundaries is deeply connected to the understanding of what we can and cannot control. Epictetus taught that we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Boundaries are a tool for asserting control over our responses to external pressures. They allow us to decide where we draw the line when it comes to the behaviors of others. For example, if a friend consistently disrespects your time by being late, a clear boundary might be that you no longer make yourself available after a certain point. This isn't a punitive act, it is an act of self-preservation. You are choosing to protect your time and energy rather than sacrificing them for someone else's inconsiderate behavior. The importance of boundaries is often overlooked in relationships where the desire to please others overrides the need to take care of oneself. In such situations, the Stoic principle of virtue, living in accordance with nature and wisdom, reminds us that our primary responsibility is to ourselves. To serve others, we must first ensure that our own needs are met, that we remain whole and healthy. A Stoic does not sacrifice personal values, emotional well-being, or time for the sake of others at the expense of their own integrity. Boundaries, therefore, are not selfish. They are essential to maintaining our own ability to give, to love, and to be present in the world. The Stoic practice of setting boundaries requires mindfulness and self-awareness. It involves understanding what is truly important to us and what behaviors or situations threaten our peace of mind. Sometimes it may be as simple as saying no to an invitation when we feel overcommitted, or it may involve having a difficult conversation with a loved one about their behavior. In either case, the Stoic understands that the discomfort of setting boundaries is temporary, whereas the consequences of neglecting them can be long-lasting. It is also important to note that boundaries are not rigid. They can be flexible and adapted to specific situations. The Stoic doesn't set boundaries out of fear or defensiveness. Rather, they set boundaries to protect their ability to respond with virtue. A boundary might look different depending on the person or the context, but the underlying principle remains the same: maintaining one's integrity and peace of mind. One of the most difficult aspects of setting boundaries is dealing with the potential reaction of others. People may resist, push back, or feel hurt by our limits, especially if they are accustomed to us being more accommodating or passive. In these moments, the Stoic approach is to remain firm in our commitment to our own well-being, while also remaining compassionate toward others. Remember, we cannot control how others react to our boundaries, but we can control our response. We must hold firm in our truth, but we do so with kindness and understanding. As Marcus Aurelius said, treat the two of you as one, your body and your soul. Treat others as though they are acting in accordance with nature, just as you are. Another key element of setting boundaries is recognizing that doing so is an act of love, not just for ourselves, but for others. When we protect our own well-being, we are better able to show up for the people in our lives. We are more patient, more present, and more emotionally available when we honor our limits. Boundaries are not walls that separate us from others. They are the spaces that allow for healthier, more balanced connections. In conclusion, the Stoic practice of setting boundaries is essential to maintaining balance and integrity. Boundaries are not selfish or rigid. They are an expression of self-respect, a recognition that our well-being must be preserved in order to offer our best selves to others. By establishing and communicating clear boundaries, we create a space in which our relationships can thrive, relationships that are founded on mutual respect, understanding, and care. Boundaries are the Stoic way of honoring both ourselves and those we love, ensuring that we can interact with the world and others from a place of strength, clarity, and peace. Lesson 6. Embracing the present moment in relationships. In Stoicism, one of the core teachings is the importance of living in the present moment. This principle, while often discussed in terms of personal growth and internal peace, is equally valuable in the context of relationships. The Stoics remind us that the present moment is all we truly have. The past is gone, and the future is uncertain. In relationships, when we live fully in the present, we deepen our connections with others, free from the burdens of past grievances or future anxieties. Seneca's words on time encapsulate the Stoic view of the present. Time is the most valuable thing a man can spend. Relationships, at their core, are an exchange of time, attention, and energy. Yet how often do we find ourselves distracted, thinking about past arguments, worrying about future outcomes, or preoccupied with everything but the person in front of us? When we fail to embrace the present moment in our relationships, we miss out on the richness of the experience and fail to fully connect with others. The practice of embracing the present moment involves being fully engaged in our interactions, listening with intention, and responding with presence. It means putting down the distractions, the phone, the thoughts of the past, the worries about the future, and focusing solely on the person we are with. In doing so, we honor them with our full attention and respect, cultivating a deeper understanding and connection. Marcus Aurelius counsels, "Be not anxious about the future, Think of the present moment, for it is in this moment that you have the power to act. One of the obstacles to living in the present moment in relationships is the habit of bringing past grievances into current interactions. When we hold on to old wounds, we carry them into every new encounter, coloring our perceptions and reactions. Stoicism teaches us to let go of these attachments, to forgive, and to leave the past where it belongs. By focusing on the present, we allow ourselves the freedom to approach others with a clear mind and an open heart, free from the baggage of past misunderstandings. Another common hindrance to living in the present is the tendency to worry about the future. We may fret about what a relationship will become, whether it will last, or how future events will unfold. But this constant worry pulls us out of the present, often leading to anxiety and a diminished ability to enjoy the current moment. The Stoic response to this is simple: we focus on what is within our control. As Epictetus said, don't waste time on what you cannot control. In relationships, this means investing our energy in the here and now, in how we show up for others in this moment, rather than obsessing over what may or may not happen in the future. Living in the present moment also requires the acceptance that we cannot control the outcomes of relationships. Too often we become attached to specific expectations about how a relationship should unfold, leading to frustration and disappointment when things don't go as planned. Stoicism teaches us to release our attachment to outcomes and to focus on the process, the daily acts of kindness, understanding, and communication that make up the fabric of a strong relationship. The future is unknown, and while it is important to make decisions and plan for the future, the Stoic remains rooted in the present, acting with virtue and integrity in each moment. One of the key practices for embracing the present moment is mindfulness. While mindfulness is often associated with meditation, it can also be applied in everyday interactions. By being fully aware of our thoughts, emotions, and actions, we can ensure that we are present with those around us. This means putting aside distractions and focusing on the person in front of us, listening deeply to their words and responding thoughtfully. When we practice mindfulness in relationships, we increase the quality of our communication and reduce misunderstandings. Another powerful Stoic exercise for embracing the present is the practice of journaling. Each day, take a moment to reflect on your relationships, on the moments where you were fully present and those where you allowed distractions or past judgments to interfere. Journaling can help you develop awareness of how often you step out of the present and how you might refocus your energy in future interactions. By reviewing your thoughts and responses, you can adjust your approach, bringing more presence and intentionality to your relationships. It's also important to recognize that every relationship, every interaction, is an opportunity to practice virtue in the present moment. The Stoics believe that virtue is not a state to be attained, but a practice that we live out moment by moment. Each conversation, each gesture, each act of kindness is an opportunity to embody wisdom, courage, and justice. By embracing the present, we are given the chance to align our actions with our highest ideals, without being distracted by the past or the future. In the context of love, friendships, and family, living in the present moment deepens our emotional connections. When we give our undivided attention to the people we care about, we make them feel valued and heard. We communicate that they are worthy of our time and presence. In turn, this strengthens the bond, creating a foundation of trust and intimacy. Moreover, when we focus on the present, we are better able to navigate conflicts with a clear mind, reacting from a place of understanding rather than emotional reactivity. In conclusion, the Stoic practice of embracing the present moment is essential for cultivating meaningful and fulfilling relationships. It allows us to engage fully with the people in our lives, free from distractions, expectations, and past resentments. By living in the present, we increase our ability to listen, understand, and respond with wisdom and compassion. This practice deepens our connections and strengthens the bonds of trust and respect, creating a foundation for healthy and lasting relationships. Lesson 7. The role of self-control in healthy relationships. Epictetus, one of the most renowned Stoic philosophers, stated, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This statement is a reminder that true freedom lies not in the ability to act according to impulse or emotion, but in the ability to choose our responses thoughtfully. In relationships, we often face challenges, disagreements, moments of tension, or actions from others that might provoke an emotional response. The Stoic approach to these situations is not to suppress or deny our emotions, but to control how we react to them. By practicing self-control, we can prevent our emotions from dictating our behavior and instead choose to act with wisdom, patience, and understanding. Self-control in relationships is particularly important because emotions can easily cloud judgment. In moments of anger, frustration, or hurt, we may be tempted to lash out, to speak impulsively, or to act in ways that we will later regret. However, when we practice self-control, we pause before responding, allowing ourselves time to reflect and choose a response that aligns with our values and the health of the relationship. Marcus Aurelius reflects on the importance of self-restraint in his meditations. When you are troubled by a sense of injustice or some pain of soul, stop yourself and reflect, what is it that is troubling me? Is it an external event or something within me? And how should I respond? This moment of reflection is key to practicing self-control. It allows us to regain perspective and respond in a manner that is measured and virtuous. Self-control also means managing our desires and attachments in relationships. One of the key Stoic practices is recognizing the difference between what is within our control and what is not. In relationships, we often become attached to outcomes, whether it's the desire for approval, affection, or validation from others. These desires can cloud our judgment and lead to unhealthy dynamics. The Stoic response to these attachments is to cultivate inner contentment, independent of external validation. In relationships, this means recognizing that our happiness does not depend on the actions or approval of others, but rather on our own thoughts, values, and self-awareness. As Epictetus writes, freedom is the only true happiness, to desire nothing, to be content with your life, whatever it may be. By mastering our desires, we find peace and stability, regardless of external circumstances. In practice, self-control can be cultivated through mindfulness and reflection. Before reacting to a challenging situation, take a moment to pause and breathe. Ask yourself, what is the most virtuous response in this moment? How can I respond in a way that aligns with my values? This brief moment of reflection can make all the difference in how we navigate conflicts, frustrations, or even moments of joy. By practicing this pause, we prevent ourselves from acting impulsively and instead allow our responses to be guided by reason, compassion, and wisdom. Self-control in relationships also involves the ability to forgive. When we allow ourselves to become consumed by anger or resentment, we lose control over our emotions and allow negativity to dominate our mindset. However, when we practice forgiveness, whether for ourselves or others, we regain control. Forgiveness is not about excusing harmful behavior, but about releasing the hold that anger or bitterness has on our minds. It is a conscious choice to let go of negative emotions and replace them with understanding and compassion. By practicing forgiveness, we free ourselves from emotional turmoil and create space for healing and growth within our relationships. Self-control in relationships is not about being rigid or controlling, but about acting with intentionality and alignment with our highest virtues. It is the ability to choose our responses, to act with patience, understanding, and clarity, and to let go of emotional reactivity. By practicing self-control, we create a foundation for healthy, balanced relationships where both individuals can thrive while supporting one another. As Marcus Aurelius teaches, the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. It requires strength, resilience, and discipline. In relationships, the art of living involves the discipline to control our emotions, desires, and reactions, ensuring that our relationships are grounded in wisdom, respect, and mutual care. In conclusion, self-control is an essential Stoic virtue that underpins all healthy relationships. By practicing self-control, we cultivate the ability to respond thoughtfully and consciously in every situation, whether it's navigating conflict, managing expectations, or simply being present with others. It is through self-control that we protect our peace, build trust, and create relationships that are rooted in respect and understanding. Relationships are not always easy, but through the practice of self-control, we can foster connections that are harmonious, fulfilling, and enduring.